I've been coming to the Lake District since I was a kid, climbing hills, chasing adventure and getting soaked in the Lake District rain, and not much has changed, and years later it still feels like adventure lives here. And now I'm 28, I feel like I have the same thirst I had back then, maybe even for something bigger, something that'll push me further than I've ever been.
That's why I've signed up to the Lakeland 50, which is a 50-mile trail race for those that don't know. Now admittedly I have been on the couch for the last 6 months, so I've got some training to do, but for those that don't know me, I'm Joe. I'm 28, I've got a passion for wild camping and everything outdoors. I had a heart transplant at 18, since then I've completed 2 marathons and an Ironman 70.3. It's not been an easy journey, but I really want to summit some big mountains this summer, but the Lakeland 50 will be one hell of a challenge and it's going to require a ton of training. 50 miles is a hell of a long way. We're talking pretty much 2 marathons with nearly 4,000 meters of gain through the beautiful Lake District. And yes, it probably will rain. So let's get into it. Okay, so my training is going to be made up of 5 different pillars. The first one being road running. Number 2 being strength training. Number 3, going hiking and camping as much as possible to get that time on my feet. Number 4 being nutrition. And finally, my favorite, gear and equipment. So the last few weeks I've been running about 20 kilometers with a couple of strength sessions. Now the importance with strength sessions are, if you imagine running, it's basically just continuous single leg jumps in one direction. That's basically all running is. So I feel like the best way to prevent injury, enjoy the race and be strong enough for the uphills and the downhills is to give strength training a good amount of respect and give it a good amount of regimented dedication. I need to make sure that I'm doing enough strength sessions to prevent injury and of course be fit enough and strong enough to complete the race on the day. Going forward, I'm going to be upping my training, running a total of up to about 60 to 70 kilometers a week, combined with somewhere between 40 to 50 kilometers of hiking. So my most important goal is to increase the time on my feet to as high as possible before I start to get a bit run down, a bit injured or ill. It's important to find that nice balance between smashing the training and preventing injury and becoming burnt out and absolutely knackered. So it's going to be an absolute honour to race the Lakeland 50. Because a lot of my colleagues at my workplace have always held that race in very high regards in relation to organisation, the way Montane obviously present this race, aid stations and the support leading up to and on the day of the race. So it's definitely an honour to take part in a event as prestigious as the Lakeland 50, and obviously see the guys that are running the Lakeland 100, which is just unfathomable right now, but who knows for the future. Over the last few years I have completed 2 marathons, maybe 10 plus half marathons and an Ironman 70.3. However, my current fitness right now is rock bottom, man. I'm probably the most unfit I've been in 4 or 5 years, so having a race like that, something to aim towards, I find is a really good way to get my fitness back in shape. For me, I lose focus when it comes to training for day-to-day life. Like, I always feel like I need an event, I need something to aim towards. Now everyone's different, but for me that's just how it works. And as I already touched on, I'll be climbing Mont Blanc, Gran Paradiso and probably a few other 4,000ers in August of 2025. We're going to require a lot of fitness, and one thing that I've learned is when it comes to hiking and camping and getting outdoors, the fitter you are, the more you enjoy it. So for me, this race is an opportunity to improve my fitness, improve my strength, therefore that'll lead to me enjoying the outdoors more. Anyway, let's get back to it. So as a kid, you always hear about marathons and it's quite like a popular distance, and obviously an ultramarathon is basically anything over a marathon. So to go from my longest run being a marathon to 50 miles is going to take a lot of training, a lot of programming and a lot of thought into gear and equipment, fueling, nutrition on the day, nutrition prior to the day, getting my sleep in, managing stress. All these things come together and enable you to complete the race on the day. And I think the first time I heard about the Lakeland 50, I was about 22 and a colleague at work was doing it. And I remember hearing the number 50 miles and just being absolutely shocked that basically humans can cover that distance in a day. It's just absolutely crazy. And some of you may know, but I was very ill when I was a little bit younger. On the 24th of October 2014, I had a heart transplant. So a few months prior to that, I had like full heart failure, which resulted in me being bedbound for months and months and months. And I remember the only thing I wanted to do was go up to the Lake District and go hiking, because even as a kid I was into it. My parents have a static caravan on Windermere and I spent a lot of time up there as a kid, and I hold really fond memories of the Lake District. It's a place which I spend most of my free time in because obviously it's just stunning. And then coming out of hospital, it was literally like 2 or 3 years until I felt myself. and was in a position where I was able to start getting my fitness back. And it's been a very slow and painful journey coming back from that. And obviously just working up in those increments, doing a few 5Ks, doing a few 10Ks, half marathons. And now we're at a point where we can even consider an ultra is just mind blowing. Anyway, let's get back to the training. Very fortunate enough to be working with one of Montane's coaches called Howard, who's been super helpful in programming, giving advice, and just general tips around preparing for the race. Now, I've never worked with a coach before, so it's been quite refreshing to see how flexible he's been when it comes to programming, because I do work shifts, so my schedule is quite erratic. Some days I might be some weeks I might be working 60 hours, where some weeks I'll be completely off. So it's important to program the big days around the days where I'm getting good amounts of sleep. Now, training so far is going pretty well, but I am quite nervous as we up the mileage. Like I say, I'm only doing about 20 to 25 kilometers a week, so it's only going to get harder from here. And combine that with all the hiking and camping, I should be getting some really good time on my feet. Funny thing when it comes to training for a race like this, I think it's better to not look at it like motivation, just look at it like non-negotiables and try and get that discipline in. Like, if you set a training day, unless you've got a really good excuse, you should be getting them done. And I feel like it starts to compound once you get 10, 15, 20 sessions under your belt. You don't want to let yourself down, you don't want to let your coach down, so you just turn up on those days. And you're bound to have bad runs. You can have bad days, you can have good days. That's just the way it goes when it comes to training for any event, to be honest. So I've got a good idea really. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pencil in some really big days and do some events like the Yorkshire Three Peaks, maybe even the Welsh 3000s, you know, big challenges, maybe even the UK Three Peaks. That way I've got like days where I can prep, I can use all the gear I'm going to be using on the day, I can test out nutrition, and again I can get that really prolonged period of time on my feet. We're nearly back home now. Another decent run in the bank. Now these runs are getting easier, but I think that will change when we start up in the mileage. Thanks for watching, guys, and make sure you tune in to see how we get on with the training, and more importantly, how we get on with the event.